The 3 moons hung over the sky of Velmora Prime, casting a soft lavender glow across the land. The spires of the Narration Palace reached toward the stars, their crystal surfaces shimmering as if alive, glowing with light from within. Ambassador Julian Rourke stood in the heart of the palace's great hall, dressed in a sharp black uniform marked with the silver crest of the Terran Interstellar Council. At just 35, he was the youngest senior diplomat Earth had ever sent beyond its solar system. The chamber around him buzzed with life. Dozens of alien leaders walked the polished floors, each more exotic than the next. Voices in many languages rose and fell, blending into a melody of diplomacy and power. Julian kept a polite smile on his face, but his thoughts wandered. This gathering was more than a simple treaty signing. It was a quiet test of Earth's growing role in the galaxy. The Narellians, famous for their beauty and intelligence, had invited many important powers, and Julian was determined to represent humanity with strength and grace. A voice, soft yet confident, interrupted his focus. Ambassador Rourke, I trust our hospitality suits you? He turned, and for a brief moment, forgot how to breathe. Standing before him was Princess Aelira Vey, the heir to the Narellian throne. Her skin was silver and smooth like starlight, her hair a cascade of glowing white strands that fell over her shoulders like a waterfall. Her golden eyes, intense and curious, stared directly into his. Her gown, white with fine golden embroidery, shimmered as she moved. Julian bowed his head slightly, keeping his eyes on hers. Your Highness, your palace is stunning, but even its splendor pales beside you. Aelira's lips curved into a subtle smile. You speak plainly for a human. Diplomat. Most choose polished words and careful praise. Julian chuckled gently. I find honesty often opens more doors than flattery. She stepped closer, and he noticed the faint scent of something floral and unknown. It lingered like a memory. Tell me honestly, Julian, she said, her voice quiet now, meant only for him. Do you believe the rumors? That the Carnathi Dominion is moving their fleet near our borders? Julian's answer came slowly, measured. I believe they are testing boundaries, but they'd be foolish to challenge Velmora, especially with Earth's new defense pact in place. Aelira's eyes studied him, searching for more than words. Then perhaps we should speak further. Privately. Her voice held a different tone now. It was not a question, nor an order. It was an invitation. Julian's heart skipped. He knew the risks. Aelira was not just a princess. She was engaged to Prince Valak of the Centauri Empire. Their future marriage was meant to bind 2 great powers together. Aelira was not free, and yet the air between them felt charged, as though destiny itself leaned forward. She reached out, her fingers brushing his. Julian hesitated. He should have pulled back. Duty and caution told him to decline. But something deep inside him, something fierce and instinctive, told him this moment mattered. He took her hand. As they slipped quietly from the hall, no one seemed to notice. But that wasn't true. Hidden eyes were watching. Somewhere in the shadows, someone saw the small gesture. They did not know what Julian and Aelira were about to begin. Not yet. But in time, the touch of fingers in a moonlit palace would start a chain of events that would shake alliances, start wars, and change the course of the galaxy. Julian didn't know that. He only knew that her hand was warm, and that the path ahead was no longer one he could walk away from. The soft light of Velmora's 3 moons filtered through the glowing arches of the crystal gardens, casting dancing shadows along the paths made of translucent stone. Julian walked beside Alira in silence, his mind struggling to keep pace with the emotions rushing through him. The air was filled with the gentle hum of energy from the living crystals that pulsed with a faint inner glow, their colors shifting between shades of violet, blue, and silver. It felt like walking through a dream, one too delicate to disturb. They passed beneath a canopy of luminous vines that curled and shimmered above them, like stars trapped in leaves. Alira led the way, her hand still holding Julian's, her fingers light but sure. Neither of them spoke until they reached a small clearing with a fountain made of light itself. Liquid energy flowed in perfect loops, rising and falling in soft waves that never spilled, like time itself had been paused. Alira stopped and turned to him, her expression serious but soft. "I didn't ask you here just to admire the gardens," she said, her voice low. Julian nodded, already knowing. "I figured that much." She hesitated for a moment, her golden eyes flickering. "There's something about you, Julian. Something I've never felt before. Your people are young, by our standards, but your spirit burns so bright. You act like you belong here, among the stars." Julian stepped closer, unsure whether to be honored or afraid. "Different isn't always better," he said carefully. "And I know you have duties. To your family, your people, to Prince Valak." Alira's eyes softened, but her tone grew stronger. "Don't speak his name. What we have is a political arrangement, an old promise made before I understood myself. I have no love for him." She moved even closer, the energy between them almost alive. "But you challenge everything I thought I knew. You're not afraid of me. You speak to me like I'm just a woman, not a title." Julian felt his heart thudding hard in his chest. The way she looked at him, it wasn't with curiosity or flirtation. It was like she saw straight through him. "That's because I don't care about the crown," he whispered. "I care about you, even though I know I shouldn't." The sound of heavy boots crunching against the crystal paths snapped them out of their spell. A patrol of royal guards was approaching, their armor shining with the same inner light as the garden. Without thinking, Alira grabbed Julian's hand and pulled him behind a tall crystal pillar. They pressed close, hidden by glowing vines, their breath shallow and quick. The space between them disappeared as they stood together, chest to chest. Julian tried to speak, but Alira reached up and placed a finger gently on his lips. Her other hand slid around his waist, holding him close. "We shouldn't be here," he whispered, though he didn't move. "Then why does it feel right?" she whispered back, her lips brushing against his cheek. The guards passed without seeing them. Silence returned to the garden, but something had changed. Julian could feel the tension in Alira's touch, the storm behind her calm face. Slowly, she led him to a wall covered in trailing vines that shimmered like water. She pressed her hand against a hidden panel, and the wall opened silently, revealing a narrow hallway glowing with soft light. They stepped inside, the door closing behind them like a secret never meant to be shared. The hallway led to a private, suite, vast and beautiful, with walls made of living crystal that changed color with every breath. A wide window looked out over the city, where the lights of Velmora sparkled like a sea of stars. But Julian barely saw it. Alira turned to him, her expression open, raw, vulnerable. "You make me feel alive," she said, stepping into his arms. "Not like a princess. Not like a symbol. Just me." Her fingers found the edges of his uniform, and her kiss came like a wave of energy, crackling with heat and truth. He kissed her back, lost in the moment, in the feeling that something greater than either of them had pulled them together. Outside, the moons rose higher, their light brushing the palace towers. Inside, the night deepened, not with silence, but with understanding, passion, and the beginning of something that neither duty nor law could stop. Julian awoke to the soft glow of morning light streaming through the crystal walls of Elira's private chambers. The warmth beside him was real. Her body curled gently against his, silver skin gleaming softly under the filtered light. For a long moment he simply watched her sleep, trying to make sense of what had happened. What had begun as a diplomatic mission had become something far more personal, and now it seemed far more permanent. Elira stirred and opened her golden eyes, her gaze meeting his with a mixture of affection and worry. She traced slow, thoughtful circles on his chest with her fingers and then whispered, "You know this changes everything." Julian nodded slightly, not trusting his voice just yet. She sat up, the sheets falling away from her glowing skin, and looked toward the window, her face troubled. "Julian, last night wasn't just passion. For my people, physical connection is not simple. When we bond with someone, our bioelectric fields align. It's not something we can undo." He frowned, sitting up beside her. "Are you saying we're bonded?" She turned to him, eyes full of emotion. "Yes, and not just emotionally. In Narelian culture, what we shared last night is the equivalent of a soul union. It's sacred. We're now seen as one, legally, spiritually. In the eyes of our people, we are no longer separate beings." Julian felt the air leave his lungs. He had heard stories about Narelian bonding rituals, but he hadn't understood the full depth of what it meant. He looked at Elira, seeing not just the woman he had fallen for, but the weight of an entire world now resting between them. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "I didn't either," she replied. "But when we touched, I felt the shift, the connection locked into place." A chime echoed through the chamber, cutting through their private moment. A glowing message appeared mid-air. It was from the palace itself, a summons. "The Queen requests the presence of Princess Elira and Ambassador Julian Rourke in her private audience hall immediately." Elira's face paled. "She knows." They rose and dressed, in silence, the tension thick between them. As they walked through the palace halls, side by side, their hands brushed once and then stayed linked, their energy fields humming softly, visible only to Narelian eyes. The palace staff turned to look at them as they passed, some with curiosity, others with barely hidden judgment. At the grand doors of the Queen's chamber, 2 guards stepped aside, and the doors opened without a word. Inside, Queen Sorella stood with her back to them, facing a tall window that looked out over the capital city. Her long silver-white hair fell like a waterfall down her ceremonial robe. Her voice, when it came, was like ice. "So the whispers were true. You've bonded with a human." Elira stepped forward bravely. "Mother, Silence," the Queen said, turning. Her golden eyes locked on their joined hands, then on the faint glow of their linked fields. "You have defied generations of tradition. You were promised to Prince Valek. Do you understand what you've done?" Julian took a breath and stepped forward, his voice steady. "Your Majesty, I take full responsibility for what happened." Queen Sorella narrowed her eyes at him. "Do you even understand what this means? You are not just some star traveler passing through. You have disrupted an alliance that was meant to protect us all. Elira's voice broke as she stepped between them. But the bond is real. You can feel it. You must know it. The Queen's gaze didn't waver. What I feel is betrayal. Before anything else could be said, a new holographic message appeared. This one urgent. A Centauri messenger, face tight with anger, addressed the Queen. Your Majesty, Prince Valak demands immediate audience. He claims to have proof that your daughter has been enchanted by human tech. He demands a trial by combat to break the bond. Elira gasped. Julian felt her grip tighten on his hand. Queen Sorella's expression darkened. Foolish boy. He would risk a war for wounded pride? The hologram shifted, showing Prince Valak's powerful figure and glowing eyes. You will answer for this betrayal. I challenge the human to combat. If I win, the bond breaks, and order is restored. The Queen's lips thinned. Then she turned to Julian. Do you accept? He looked at Elira, then back at the Queen. Yes, he said. If it's the only way to protect what we have, I'll fight. The palace halls, once calm and glowing with peaceful light, now seemed tense and heavy, as Julian followed Elira and Queen Sorella down a narrow, hidden corridor beneath the grand towers. The Queen no longer wore her royal robes. Instead, she had changed into a sleek battlesuit made of dark crystal threads, flexible and strong, a reminder that before she was queen, she had been a warrior. Elira walked close to Julian, her fingers wrapped around his, their bioelectric bond humming faintly between them. None of them spoke until they reached a massive sealed door. Queen Sorella placed her palm against a glowing panel, and the entrance opened into a wide underground chamber lined with glowing columns. At its center stood a tall Narration man, his silver skin marked by old scars and golden eyes filled with focus. He bowed to the Queen but looked at Julian with curiosity. This is the human who formed a true bond with the princess? He asked. Yes, the Queen replied. This is Master Halvek. He trained me when I was young and later trained Elira's sister. If anyone can prepare you, it's him. Halvek walked slowly around Julian, studying his frame. You're fast, but speed alone won't save you against a Centauri warrior. Prince Valak has trained for this since birth. Their kind are built for war. Thicker bones, enhanced muscles, natural armor under their skin. He will try to overpower you quickly. Julian nodded. Then I'll need to survive long enough to outsmart him. Halvek's mouth lifted slightly at the corner. A diplomat with sharp instincts. Good. The Queen stepped forward and opened a hidden compartment in the chamber wall, revealing a sleek suit of armor. It was made of dark silver metal with glowing patterns running along its surface. This is our newest combat suit, powered by quantum crystal technology. It will boost your reflexes and link directly to your bioelectric field. As Julian suited up, he felt the power hum across his body. The suit responded to his thoughts and movement like a second skin. Master Halvek began the training without delay, teaching Julian how to move, block, and strike using the energy from his bond with Elira. With every strike, Julian felt her presence, her calm, her focus, flowing through him. The connection between them sharpened his mind, quickened his reflexes, and gave him a strange, steady strength. Halvek pushed him hard. Valak is fast and brutal. You must be unpredictable. Make him angry. Make him careless. Julian nodded, sweat dripping from his face. He won't expect me to last even a minute. Exactly, the master replied. Let him believe that. Then surprise him. Elira stood nearby, watching with silent worry. She believed in Julian, but the thought of him facing Valak in a duel terrified her. "There's a weak point," Halvek said at last, slowing the session. "At the base of a centauri's neck. It's small and protected, but if you strike it with enough force, you can shut down their nervous system for a moment. It's considered dishonorable to aim for it, but you may not get another chance." Julian met his eyes. Sometimes survival matters more than honor. A chime echoed through the chamber. Valak's ship had entered the palace spaceport. The fight would begin soon. Julian turned to Elira. She stepped close, adjusting his armor with shaking fingers. "I never meant for any of this to happen," she whispered. "If you die because of me—" He silenced her with a gentle kiss. "I'm not going to die," he said softly. "Not when I have you with me." Their bioelectric field surged between them in one bright pulse. The Queen approached and looked him over one final time. "Whatever happens in that arena, you've already shown more courage than I expected from any outsider. I underestimated you. I won't again." Julian bowed his head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I'll do everything I can not to let you down." The doors of the underground chamber opened wide, revealing a long tunnel that led up to the royal combat arena. The air was heavy with the scent of crystal dust and tension. As Julian walked toward the light at the end of the corridor, he felt Elira's hand slip into his one last time. Their bond was strong, humming with silent promises. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The arena of Velmora's royal palace shone like a glass sculpture under the rising sun, its crystal walls refracting light into 1,000 dancing colors across the smooth, sand-covered floor. High above, nobles and foreign guests watched from elevated platforms, their voices hushed with curiosity and tension. Julian stepped into the center, his new combat suit humming quietly as it linked fully with his bioelectric field. Each movement felt lighter, sharper, as if the suit moved before he even decided to act. Across the arena, Prince Valak stood like a mountain of gleaming armor, his scaled skin glistening with a polished, unnatural sheen. His eyes glowed faintly with a strange purple light, and Julian instantly felt something was off. Valak's muscles twitched too quickly, his breathing too fast for someone who had trained all his life. The prince's voice boomed across the arena, filled with pride and challenge. "Last chance, human. Surrender now, and I will grant you a fast death." Julian smiled calmly and responded, "I thought this was a test of honor, not an execution." Valak snarled and launched forward, like a missile. Julian barely avoided the first blow, rolling aside just in time. The impact of Valak's strike left a deep crater in the sand. Julian's training with Master Halvek took over. He dodged, countered, moved in swift circles, using his smaller size and faster reflexes to stay out of Valak's crushing reach. Still, every attack grew closer, and Julian could feel the heavy pressure of the prince's strength in the air. He realized Valak was faster than any Centauri should be, even faster than the ones he had studied. Julian recalled Halvek's warning about combat stimulants, and now he was certain. Valak had taken something to enhance his strength and speed. Between dodges, Julian began talking, loud enough for the watching nobles to hear. "You're stronger than I expected, Prince Valak. Much stronger than your training alone could explain." Valak gritted his teeth and hissed, "What are you implying, Earthborn?" Julian kept moving. "Just that your performance seems artificial. Maybe even enhanced by something not allowed in sacred combat?" A ripple passed through the crowd. Whispers spread. Valak's strikes grew wilder, his control slipping. "You insult my honor," the prince roared. Julian stayed focused. He had studied diplomacy, not just war. And he knew that if he couldn't win with force, he could win with truth. "I wonder," he continued, dodging again, "what your people would say if they knew their champion needed chemicals to fight a human." That did it. Valak charged in pure rage, his form clumsy now, his timing broken. Julian saw his opening. He dropped to the ground, rolled beneath Valak's swing, and came up behind him. With all his strength, he channeled the bond energy between himself and Alira into one final strike. His fist, powered by the suit and their bond, crashed into the base of Valak's neck. A crack of light burst through the air. Valak's entire body went stiff, then collapsed forward onto the arena floor with a thud. Silence fell. For a moment, no one moved. Then the royal medics rushed to Valak's side. One of them scanned him, then looked up and announced, "Combat stimulants detected. Illegal neural enhancers. He'll live. But he's disqualified under combat law," the audience gasped. Queen Sorella stood slowly and raised her hand. "Prince Valak has broken the sacred code of trial combat. His challenge is void. Ambassador Julian Rourke is the victor." Cheers erupted across the arena. Alira ran down the stairs and into Julian's arms. The moment they touched, their bioelectric fields glowed with brilliant light, rising like an aurora into the air. She clung to him tightly. "You did it," she whispered through tears. Julian smiled and whispered back, "No, we did it." Queen Sorella stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "I must admit, I doubted you, Julian. But you've shown strength, wisdom, and restraint. Perhaps your bond with my daughter is not a mistake after all." Julian bowed slightly, his body still trembling from the fight. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I had to. For her, and for the truth." The crowd's cheers echoed through the crystal walls. But Julian barely heard them. He looked down at Alira, whose eyes shone with pride and love. In that moment, under the rising light and among 100 watching worlds, Julian knew their real battle was just beginning, but they would face it side by side. The days after, the duel passed quickly, but the changes they brought would echo for lifetimes. Julian stood once again in the royal palace, this time dressed not in armor, but in ceremonial robes lined with silver threads and small quantum crystals that shimmered faintly under the palace lights. Around him, preparations were being made for the formal bonding ceremony that would seal his connection with Alira in front of all Velmora. The Queen's private chambers had been transformed into a strategy room, where a glowing map of the galaxy floated above a circular table. Queen Sorella stood beside it, her hands clasped tightly behind her back, her golden eyes scanning the shifting images of starships and trade routes. "The Centauri fleet has moved again," she said quietly. "They claim it's a training drill. But they're too close to the border outposts. It's a warning." Julian studied the map with her. "They're cutting off key trade routes, trying to make us feel surrounded without firing a single shot." Alira stood between them, her voice calm but firm. "They're hoping the scandal of Valak's defeat will give them leverage. But they didn't expect what came next." Her gaze turned to Julian, and he gave her a small nod. "They didn't expect the bond to hold, or the people to accept it." The Queen sighed. "And now, we have another problem. The combat stimulants used by Valak, they were Narelian-made. That means someone from our own house helped him." Julian's jaw tightened. "Lord Syrinx," he said. "He's the only one with the access and motive. He controls most of the alternate trade routes. If a war begins, he profits. He didn't want Valak to win. He wanted me to lose in the worst way possible. Publicly. Disgracefully. Queen Sorella nodded grimly. And now that he's failed, he'll act fast to cover his trail. That's why the ceremony must go ahead. A public display of unity will draw every eye and buy us time. Outside the palace, news of the upcoming bonding ceremony had spread like fire. The people of Velmora were curious, and though not all approved, many had come to admire Julian after the duel. His calm strength, his wit under pressure, and his clear devotion to Illyra had earned him more respect than most outsiders ever managed. Inside the temple, where the ceremony would take place, crystal walls hummed with energy. Thousands of guests arrived, their clothes glowing with soft light, their voices low with excitement. Julian stood alone near the front, the ceremonial platform behind him shining like the heart of a star. Master Halvek adjusted the settings on Julian's robe and gave him a rare smile. "You've done more than survive, human. You've adapted, and now you've earned the right to be here." Julian nodded, his eyes scanning the crowd for one face. He didn't have to wait long. A quiet hush spread across the temple as Illyra entered, her gown flowing like water and her presence lighting the room. The moment their eyes met, their bond flared in a visible wave of energy that rolled over the gathered guests like a warm breeze. The Queen stepped forward and raised her hands. "Today, we witness a new beginning, not just between two people, but between two worlds. Let none stand in the way of what has already been sealed by heart and by spirit." Just as the ceremony began, a faint alarm chimed, hidden doors opened, and masked attackers burst into the temple. It was Lord Cyrix's final move, hoping to end the union before it could be made official. But Julian had expected something like this. Beneath his robes, he wore a light version of his combat suit. He moved quickly, using both training and instinct. Illyra joined him, and together they fought with a silent rhythm only their bond could explain. Crystals burst with light as energy bolts struck the temple floor. The crowd scattered, but the Queen stood firm, calling for her royal guards. In minutes, the attack was stopped. Lord Cyrix was caught trying to flee the city, his plot exposed fully. As calm returned to the temple, Julian and Illyra stood again at the center. Their robes were singed, their breathing heavy, but their eyes held only joy. The Queen's voice rose again. "Let the stars witness this bond." When they joined hands and kissed, the energy released lit up the temple ceiling like a small sun. In that moment, two souls from different worlds became one. Together, they had not only survived a challenge meant to break them, they had built something stronger, something that could reshape the galaxy.